There's typically, a first scientific risk that needs to be overcome, then a technology risk of productizing that science, and then a go-to-market risk of commercializing and getting market traction.
Hi everyone, my name is Miguel Magalhães. I'm the head of content and partnerships at the Next Big Idea. And in this edition of Web Summit, we are conducting a series of interviews with companies and investors discussing the innovation ecosystem here in Europe. And with me, I have Alexandre Barbosa, the managing partner of Faber Ventures. Alexandre, thank you very much for being here with me. Um, the moment in investment shifted from 2023 to 2024. How have you seen this paradigm shifting in this year in terms of industries, in terms of Faber's operation across a range of countries? What's your view on what's changed from 12 months ago to now?
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to join you in this conversation. Well, I think over the last year, what we're seeing is, a confirmation of a little bit of what we discussed last year. We're seeing an increase of applied science companies that are, a new generation of startups being born across Europe, where we see, many original researchers being among the co-founding teams. Those researchers have been working for years in, frontier technologies and are now considering either, joining startups or building companies on top of their IP. In our case, this aligns directly with our specialization and our specialist strategy. The other thing that we're seeing is that, across the boards, we're seeing Europe calling for deep tech to help solve, some of the largest worldwide challenges that require complex solutions at scale. And we feel that, Southern Europe, Portugal, Spain, and other countries along the Southern Europe coastline are playing a relevant role within the larger European landscape.
Yeah.
We're seeing relevant hubs not only in Portugal but also in Spain, where research groups are developing, novel technologies. New spin-outs, spin-offs out of academia, out of research institutions are coming to life. And so a new breed of investors is also required to help these founders, set up their companies. If you ask about, facts and figures, the statistics, when we look at our own figures in terms of pipeline of new companies and so forth, we see a population of founders and startups from across geographies in Europe that are heavily on the deep tech side. That means, deep tech meaning companies that are heavily reliant on research and development, proprietary technologies that require several years of product development research before going to market, and where their defensibility heavily relies on the research work that was done previously. This type of company is difficult to fund,
Yeah.
they are difficult to scale, they are very complex and very unique in the type of talent that they attract, the type of infrastructure that they require to develop their product and industrialize and start commercialization. And so a different type of capital is also required within the venture capital
Yeah.
class to help these companies become viable and grow at scale. And so enter Faber and our
Yeah.
mission of seeding the future, and
Yeah.
that's how we believe we can help these types of founders.
And in your experience supporting companies at the seed stage, what would you say, either now or on your experience, is the key differentiator in the companies that you are supporting in this stage? Because when you look at science and you look at the challenges that these types of companies face, what would you say now when you are overseeing projects and proposals and founders that you really are keen to invest? What would you say is the number one thing that you look up to? Is it the technology? Is it the talent? Is it the industry where they are operating? What would you say?
People first, always.
Yeah.
When you're building, when someone is proposing a new company or thinking about building a company that is, from a commercial standpoint, maybe 5 to 10 years from, really scaling up commercially in the market, anything can happen along the way. A lot of uncertainty surrounds these types of companies. And so there's typically, a first scientific risk that needs to be overcome, then a technology risk of productizing that science, and then a go-to-market risk of commercializing and getting market traction.
Yeah.
Along the way, you need people that are resilient, that are completely focused on driving their vision first, and achieving that type of solution, tackling a certain type of problem. These people are magnets of talent, and so as you scale up a company, you need to set up your own teams, you attract further talent, and so it all boils down to people first. These people need to be talented from a technical and scientific perspective. They need to own their technologies and offer, proprietary, some level of edge and
Yeah.
differentiation. But they also need to be empathic, and they need to have that aura of their spark in their eyes, and be able to attract not only investment but also other people to join them along the way. Our best performing companies are set up, founded, and managed by founders who have that unstoppable type of DNA
Yeah.
that can, drive through anything, and that's the type of people that we obviously seek for.
Despite you having a Portuguese DNA, your operation is more and more on a European context and not also in Portugal. What would you say in terms of your investment thesis? In terms of challenges that you face in the different countries that you operate, like if you're looking at the south of Europe, does it apply every time you go to in these countries and you analyze their ecosystem? Have you find similar trends, similar things whenever you are supporting a company in those markets?
Well, that's a great question, because in Europe we have, a puzzle with different pieces.
Yeah.
I think the overall challenge that we face in Europe is common to any jurisdiction. And that means that we're facing decades of very complex problems as societies, and be it food, be it security, be it industrial resilience, be it quality of life and health. All these aspects require different types of solutions. When we see the opportunity of applying deep tech to solve some of these problems, we see technology being applied to either achieve, higher efficiency and effectiveness of industrial value chains and economic business models, or higher quality of life, or better sourcing and access, equitable access to either quality of life or feed and food. And so, in rising up to challenges such as these ones, there's a role that can be played by different regions across Europe. And we believe that Southern Europe has a very relevant role to be played in helping unlock the potential of deep tech across Europe. That means, if you look at talent, for example, talent flows across Europe and tends to flow towards the south. Portugal and Spain are among the top 5 destinations of Erasmus and exchange programs. When you have that pulling power of technical and scientific talent, when you have a growing infrastructure of R&D, top-level academia across those countries, then you feel that there's a huge potential out there that needs to be unlocked in connection with other science hubs in more mature markets, be it in Germany, in the UK, in the Netherlands, whatever makes sense for each subdomain of deep technologies. What we feel is that to make that possible, you need to have a stack of capital that is adequate for each stage of maturity of the projects. For a very early stage, when pioneers are working on novel technologies and facing multiple risks, you need a type of capital that backs these founders, and that has a mandate to be patient, to be backing companies that still involve high levels of intrinsic risk, but where the reward can be, very high multiples on return on investments. And so, to cope with that alignment of the gap of deep tech specialized capital in Southern Europe, where, from a venture capital standpoint, most of the investment groups in Iberia are either generalists or evolving towards becoming slightly later stage. Culture is in general risk adverse. Venture capital teams are usually looking for, certain types of traction, KPIs. It's very rare to find a specialized VC that can invest pre-product, pre-revenue, and take that level of risk. And so we chose a specialist approach to VC where we are highly disciplined in following our thesis and in building high conviction portfolios of deep tech companies. And that is an alignment of three vectors: stage of investments. We are specialists in pre-seed and seed stage
Yeah.
investments. In geography, we do invest across Europe, and we have investments across multiple geographies in Europe. Although our core regional focus is to become the first go-to team in seed stage deep tech in Iberia.
Yeah.
And then from a thematic standpoint, the more we grow in accumulated knowledge and experience in investing over the years,
Yeah.
the more comfort we find in being a competent investor in deeper technology, in frontier technologies, in hard technologies. To give you a tangible data point, we've done more than 50 investments so far at Faber across multiple funds. Half of our portfolio involves combinations of software and hardware,
Yeah.
be it robotics, sensors, special purpose hardware that is developed for healthcare applications, industrial combinations of hardware and software. This is very rare in a regular VC, but it's typical in a deep tech specialist VC. And so we have been building a network of expert advisors that works together with us in helping founders overcome specific technical and scientific challenges in going to market, in preparing to early growth and for the early stages of lifting off as a project. And so what you can expect from Faber is there's a gap in specialized capital in Southern Europe, especially at pre-seed and seed stage, that early maturity level of technology readiness. And so we have designed our value proposition as an investor to be ready to back those deep tech pioneers in going from lab to market, in raising their first rounds. We are very comfortable, and as you are aware, in leading rounds. 75% of our first checks were rounds that we led or co-led together with other European or US investors.
Yeah.
And so we believe that we are now, crystallizing our value proposition as a very disciplined, high-focus specialist VC in seed-stage deep tech
Yeah.
that can, help founding teams tackle very hard technologies and frontier technologies with a mandate to invest that is adequate to that level of risk.
And giving all this mission, joining the geography, the focus on talent, the focus on deep tech, how has that impacted the latest fund that you just announced, where you are tackling all these challenges and all these areas, and how do you look forward in the implementation of this fund and how it can impact exactly what you are trying to do?
Well, we have just
with the support of EIF, of course, which
Yes.
is one of the
we just announced the launch of our newest fund. We're targeting a 60 million funds to invest in seed stage deep tech across Europe, but mostly in Southern Europe. And that is the result of our learnings over the last few years. The types of companies that we've been backing, the likes of Sword Health, ILOF, Luminate Medical, Aptrace in the healthcare space, or SmartX in the industrial space, Mitiga in climate risk intelligence. All those companies have a very high level of proprietary IP. And we've been learning how to best position ourselves to continue leading those rounds across the deep tech universe. That, from a specific standpoint, that means thematic domains like obviously artificial intelligence and data infrastructures, robotics and automation, synthetic biology, computational chemistry, and even novel forms of computing like photonics, quantum semiconductors, and so on. Our first investments, soon to be announced, are exactly in those spaces. We've led 3 rounds so far that will be announced very soon in synthetic biology, in semiconductors and photonic chips. 3 investments in extraordinary teams in Portugal, Spain, and the Netherlands so far. And all those learnings have informed how we would like to design the new fund. The new fund has been anchored at our first close with the European Investment Fund I think it's
How's that relationship? How do you feel that? How does it help to have
we
such
are
an important player within the European context giving you that
we are
support?
absolutely humbled by the fact that the European Investment Fund has, for the third time, decided to back one of our funds. We've been working very strongly and closely since 2019. We first closed Faber Tech 2, then we launched our climate impact fund dedicated to ocean sustainability, also with the backing of the European Investment Fund, and now launching Faber Tech 3 for seed stage deep tech, also with the European Investment Funds. That has been, instrumental to not only accelerate the completion of our first close, but also to attract other private investors. I think I need to highlight the fact that for the first time, an Iberian fund was able to attract the NATO Innovation Funds in joining us in the first close. They are now one of the largest investors in European deep technologies. And so having them as a backer is a signal of credibility for our thesis and for our strategy. Caixa Capital from Portugal also joined the EIF and the NATO Innovation Funds in anchoring the first close, and then a couple of family offices that have been supporting us since the last funds have also joined the first close. This early pool of capital has allowed us to start investing. We are now continuing our fundraising campaign to, crystallize the funds at target size, and we are confident that we will be able to achieve that. This design of the new funds and the positioning of the new fund for seed stage deep tech with, additional firepower allows us to continue leading rounds in companies where the first rounds are becoming not only more complex but also more demanding from a capex perspective. These are companies that require significant amounts of capital to overcome scientific risk, technology risk, and then start industrialization. We are very excited about what we're seeing out there. It's in times like these very challenging from socially, economically, politically in Europe and around the world that we see entrepreneurship as the driving engine of innovation. And so, when we back to basics, when we look at our claim for the vision of this fund, seeding the future, it's literally like that. We're seeing a new generation of founders that are, tackling extremely complex problems with extremely innovative technologies. Now proposing to build companies on top of that IP, and hopefully, tackling some of the hardest challenges at scale over the coming years. And hopefully, we are part of that class of VCs around Europe that are, retaining talent in Europe and helping those companies get, out of the labs and the research groups to become tangible applications in real life across industries.
Alexandre, thank you very much for joining us
Thank you so much for
today.
having me.